Emotions are an inherent part of the human experience, but how we manage and respond to them can shape our lives. Stoicism teaches us to approach emotions with wisdom and mindfulness, helping us navigate life's challenges without being controlled by our feelings. In this guide, we explore 10 things wise people don't do with their emotions, offering insights into how to achieve emotional balance and clarity. 1. I am controlled by my emotion. The first thing that wise people do not say about their emotions is, I am controlled by my emotions. This reflects the idea that emotions are an external force, something that dictates our actions and decisions. However, Stoicism teaches us that emotions, while natural and sometimes powerful, are not forces that we must surrender to. As Epictetus famously said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. According to Stoics, emotions are responses to our perceptions of events, not the events themselves. This means that we have the power to change how we respond emotionally. The idea is not to suppress emotions, but to understand them and, through practice, become less reactive to them. A wise person does not believe that they are slaves to their emotions, but rather seeks to master them through mindfulness, reflection, and reason. This control allows us to maintain clarity and make decisions based on our values, not on emotional impulses. 2. I must avoid painful emotions at all cost. The second thing that wise people do not say is, I must avoid painful emotions at all costs. This belief stems from the desire to escape discomfort, but the Stoics argue that avoiding pain or hardship is not the path to true happiness. Instead, they teach us to embrace challenges and learn from them. Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This means that difficult emotions like fear, grief, or frustration are not things to avoid but rather opportunities for growth. Pain teaches us resilience, patience, and understanding. By facing adversity head-on, we develop inner strength and a deeper sense of peace. The Stoic approach is not to avoid pain but to accept it, learn from it, and use it to cultivate wisdom. This perspective allows us to engage with life fully, rather than constantly running away from discomfort. Wise people do not seek to eliminate negative emotions. Instead, they learn to navigate them with grace. 3. I must always act on my emotion. The third thing wise people do not say about their emotions is, I must always act on my emotions. This belief suggests that emotions are guides for immediate action, and we must follow them without pause. However, the Stoics encourage us to examine our emotions before reacting, as immediate emotional responses often lead to impulsive or irrational actions. Epictetus put it best when he said, it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. This means that before we act, we must first question whether our emotional response is rooted in wisdom. Emotions can cloud our judgment and lead us to act in ways that are not in alignment with our values. Wise people practice self-control, pausing to reflect before responding to emotional impulses. This reflection allows us to act with reason and virtue, rather than with unchecked emotion. By taking a moment to pause and reflect, we can act more thoughtfully and align our responses with our long-term goals and values. 4. I should suppress my emotion. The fourth thing that wise people do not say about their emotions is, I should suppress my emotions. While Stoics advocate for emotional restraint, they do not teach suppression or denial. Emotions are a natural part of being human, and trying to bury them can lead to inner turmoil. Stoicism teaches us to acknowledge our emotions without letting them dictate our behavior. Seneca wisely said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Instead of ignoring our emotions, we should observe them and understand their causes. By accepting emotions as they arise and then choosing how to respond, we avoid being overwhelmed by them. Suppression only creates internal conflict, whereas acceptance allows us to navigate emotions in a healthy way. The Stoic path is not one of emotional denial but of emotional awareness. Wise people recognize and feel their emotions but do not allow them to dominate their decisions or behavior. 5. Emotions are inherently bad. The fifth thing wise people do not say about their emotions is, emotions are inherently bad. This perspective implies that all emotions are negative and must be eliminated. Stoicism does not view emotions as inherently bad. Rather, it teaches that emotions are natural and should be understood in the context of our values and actions. Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Emotions are shaped by our thoughts and beliefs. While negative emotions, such as anger or fear, can be uncomfortable, they are not bad in themselves. They are simply signals that something within us needs attention. For instance, anger can indicate that we value justice, while fear can indicate that we care about our safety. The key is not to suppress these emotions, but to examine what they reveal about our values and how we can respond in alignment with wisdom. Wise people understand that emotions are part of the human experience and can be used for personal growth. They focus on responding to emotions thoughtfully and constructively, not eliminating them entirely. 6. I can't change how I feel. The sixth thing wise people do not say about their emotions is, I can't change how I feel. This belief stems from the idea that emotions are fixed and unchangeable, but Stoicism teaches that we can change our emotional responses through reason and practice. Epictetus stated, "It is not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgment of them." Emotions are influenced by our thoughts and interpretations of events. While we cannot always control what emotions arise in us, we can control how we interpret situations and, therefore, how we respond emotionally. By practicing mindfulness and self-awareness, we can learn to shift our perspectives and change our emotional responses. For example, if we feel frustrated with a situation, we can choose to reinterpret that frustration as an opportunity for growth or as a lesson in patience. Over time, this shift in perspective helps us become less reactive and more emotionally resilient. Wise people recognize that they have the power to change how they feel, and they use this power to cultivate emotional balance. 7. Emotions are always obstacle. The seventh thing wise people do not say about their emotions is, emotions are always obstacles. This belief suggests that emotions are something to be avoided or overcome, but Stoicism teaches that emotions can be useful if understood and managed properly. As Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Emotions are not necessarily obstacles. They can be valuable signals that guide us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves. For example, anger might indicate that something is unjust or wrong, and sadness might indicate a loss that needs to be processed. By embracing and understanding our emotions, we can use them to inform our decisions and align ourselves with our values. Rather than seeing emotions as barriers, wise people view them as signals that can lead to greater insight and action. 8. I should act immediately on my emotion. The eighth thing that wise people don't do with their emotions is, I should act immediately on my emotions. In moments of strong emotional response, it can be tempting to act impulsively, but the Stoics teach us that acting without reflection often leads to regrettable outcomes. The Stoics advocate for taking a pause, reflecting on the emotion, and then choosing the best course of action. Seneca advised, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Before we act based on our emotions, we should first take a moment to assess whether our emotional reaction aligns with our values and goals. By pausing and reflecting, we can act with greater wisdom and avoid impulsive behavior that we might regret later. 9. I must always avoid discomfort. The ninth thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I must always avoid discomfort. Emotions like sadness, fear, or frustration are uncomfortable, but Stoicism teaches us that discomfort is not inherently negative. It is part of life and an opportunity for growth. The Stoics argue that we should embrace discomfort when it arises, as it is a chance to strengthen our character and resolve. As Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show what men are. When we encounter uncomfortable emotions, we have an opportunity to practice resilience and emotional endurance. Rather than running from discomfort, we can face it head-on, knowing that it is through overcoming challenges that we grow and develop inner strength. 10. I am powerless over my emotion. The 10th and final thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I am powerless over my emotions. While it's true that emotions are a natural part of being human, the Stoics teach us that we are not powerless. We have the ability to influence and manage our emotional responses through conscious effort, reflection, and practice. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." We may not be able to control every external event, but we do have the power to control how we react to them emotionally. By practicing mindfulness and emotional awareness, we can take ownership of our emotional state, choosing responses that align with our values and goals. 11. I need to be perfect. The 11th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I need to be perfect. This reflects a perfectionist mindset that can create unnecessary pressure, leading to emotional turmoil and a constant fear of failure. The Stoics remind us that perfection is an illusion and an unattainable goal. In their view, trying to achieve perfection often causes us to become overly self-critical and anxious, preventing us from finding peace in our emotional lives. Epictetus advised, "Don't aim to be perfect, but aim to be better today than you were yesterday." The goal of Stoicism is not to be flawless, but to improve ourselves incrementally. By understanding that mistakes and failures are part of the human experience, we can learn to treat ourselves with more compassion and reduce the emotional stress that comes from trying to meet impossible standards. Perfectionism robs us of joy because we're always chasing something that doesn't exist, while growth offers a more sustainable path to emotional fulfillment. Rather than stressing about perfection, focus on progress. Celebrate the small victories, learn from your mistakes, and keep moving forward. The Stoics believe that wisdom and emotional balance come from acknowledging our flaws and working steadily to improve, not from the impossible quest for perfection. 12. I shouldn't express my emotion. The 12th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I shouldn't express my emotions. This mindset can lead to emotional repression, where we suppress our feelings rather than confronting them. While Stoicism advocates for controlling our emotional impulses and ensuring that emotions don't rule our actions, it doesn't encourage complete emotional suppression. Stoicism teaches us to express our emotions in healthy, constructive ways that are aligned with reason. Seneca wrote, "A friend is someone who knows everything about you and still likes you." In this way, expressing emotions to trusted friends or family can be an important outlet for releasing pent-up feelings. Talking things through helps us to process our emotions more clearly and can provide the perspective we need to deal with them wisely. Emotionally intelligent people understand that while emotions can be powerful, they are not a weakness. Sharing emotions can be a pathway to emotional healing, and it allows us to process them rather than bury them. Suppressing emotions over time leads to bitterness and mental strain. It's crucial to develop an emotional vocabulary. Learn to name your feelings, discuss them openly when needed, and understand them deeply. In the Stoic sense, the goal is not to feel less, but to express and manage those feelings in a way that doesn't compromise our rational judgment. 13. I can't coexist with other emotion. The 13th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I can't coexist with other emotions. Many people feel that emotions should be one-dimensional, but the Stoics understood that emotions are often complex and layered. We can feel both joy and sadness at the same time, perhaps in the context of a farewell or a bittersweet success. The idea that emotions should be neatly categorized often leads to confusion and resistance. In truth, emotions are rarely black or white, and they can coexist without overwhelming us. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, advised, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Our emotional responses are shaped by the way we perceive the world. Often, we experience mixed emotions, where feelings of fear coexist with feelings of courage, or anxiety with hope. The Stoic practice teaches us to accept that this is part of the human condition. Rather than dismissing one emotion in favor of another, we learn to balance them. By acknowledging and integrating these emotions, we avoid the trap of either repressing or denying one at the expense of the other. Being emotionally mature means accepting that life is complex, and that our feelings are just as multifaceted. It's natural to feel different emotions at once, and the key is not to allow them to dictate our actions in an unproductive way. By accepting the coexistence of multiple emotions, we can better navigate our emotional experiences with grace. 14. My emotions define my future. The 14th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, my emotions define my future. This belief can trap us in the idea that our emotional state today will determine our destiny. For example, if we feel angry or anxious, we might believe that these emotions will define the way we approach the future. The Stoics, however, teach that while emotions are a natural part of life, they are not absolute determinants of our future actions. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Our future is not defined by the fleeting emotions we experience, but by the choices we make in response to them. It's important to remember that we have control over how we react to emotions. We can choose to allow anger to dictate our actions, or we can choose to pause, reflect, and act with reason and wisdom. Just because you feel angry in the moment doesn't mean you must act in anger, and just because you feel sad doesn't mean you have to remain in that state forever. The Stoic view is that we must learn to differentiate between transient emotional states and our true, long-term desires. Emotions are signals, but they should not become the rulers of our destiny. Rather than allowing emotions to dictate our future, we should cultivate a mindset of emotional mastery. This means recognizing that, while emotions are powerful, they do not have the ultimate say in the course of our lives. 15. I'm defined by my worst emotion. The 15th and final thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I'm defined by my worst emotions. This mindset suggests that we are hopelessly controlled by our most negative feelings and that they represent who we truly are. Stoicism teaches us that we are not defined by our worst emotions, but rather by how we handle them. Seneca offered this insight: a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Our emotional struggles do not define us, they refine us. It's how we respond to our most intense emotional states that shapes our character and our future. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of our emotions, Stoicism invites us to see challenges as opportunities for growth. Even our worst emotional experiences can be turned into valuable lessons if we approach them with the right mindset. Rather than defining ourselves by the intensity of our emotions, we define ourselves by how we choose to rise above them. Our actions, decisions, and character are what truly define us, not the emotions we experience. 16. I must feel motivated to act. The 16th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I must feel motivated to act. This mindset assumes that action is only valid or effective if driven by a positive emotional state, such as excitement or inspiration. However, the Stoics emphasize that motivation is fleeting, and waiting for it often leads to stagnation. Action, they argued, is rooted in discipline and purpose, not in how we feel at the moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have work to do as a human being." This simple yet profound reminder encourages us to act based on what needs to be done, not on whether we feel like doing it. Waiting for motivation can trap us in a cycle of procrastination, while cultivating discipline helps us create momentum, regardless of our emotional state. Wise individuals understand that the act of starting often generates the motivation they were waiting for. They treat motivation as a byproduct of action, not its prerequisite. Whether it's beginning a daunting project, exercising, or pursuing a goal, they know that showing up consistently will produce results, even when the emotional spark is absent. 17. I should compare my emotions to other. The 17th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I should compare my emotions to others. This belief often arises when we perceive others as happier, calmer, or more composed than we feel ourselves to be. Comparing our internal emotional struggles to others' external appearances is misleading, as it ignores the depth and nuance of human experience. Epictetus warned, "Another success is no reason for your envy. Their path is not yours to walk." Emotions are deeply personal and shaped by unique circumstances, values, and experiences. What brings joy or anxiety to one person may be irrelevant to another. Comparing our emotional states to others only invites feelings of inadequacy or superiority, both of which are distractions from our own growth. Wise individuals focus on their own journey, understanding that emotions are not a competition. They accept their feelings without judgment and resist the urge to measure them against others' seemingly perfect lives. The key is self-compassion, acknowledging that your emotional path is valid and distinct, regardless of what others are experiencing. 18. I can outsmart my emotions without awareness. The 18th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I can outsmart my emotions without awareness. This belief underestimates the complexity of emotions and assumes they can be ignored, bypassed, or controlled through sheer willpower. While Stoicism advocates for rational control over emotional impulses, it also emphasizes the importance of understanding and examining emotions. You cannot manage what you don't acknowledge. Seneca advised, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery begins with awareness. Emotions often carry valuable information about our desires, fears, and values. Ignoring them leads to unresolved inner conflicts, which may manifest as stress, anxiety, or impulsive behavior. Wise individuals take time to reflect on their emotions, identifying their origins and triggers, so they can respond rather than react. To cultivate emotional awareness, wise people practice mindfulness. They observe their thoughts and feelings without judgment, creating space to understand what lies beneath the surface. This introspection enables them to address emotional challenges with clarity and purpose, rather than relying on superficial tactics to outsmart their feelings. 19. I have to control everything to feel emotionally safe. The 19th thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, I have to control everything to feel emotionally safe. This belief reflects a need for certainty and control, which often stems from fear or insecurity. The Stoics, however, recognize that most aspects of life are beyond our control. Attempting to control everything is not only futile but also a significant source of emotional distress. Epictetus famously stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Emotional safety doesn't come from controlling external events. It comes from cultivating inner resilience. Wise individuals understand that they cannot prevent challenges, losses, or disappointments, but they can control their response to these events. By focusing on their thoughts, attitudes, and actions, they create a sense of stability within, even amidst chaos. Instead of striving for total control, they practice acceptance. This doesn't mean passive resignation, but rather a proactive choice to engage with reality as it is. Emotional safety is achieved by trusting in their ability to handle whatever comes their way, not by trying to micromanage the uncontrollable. 20. Negative emotions have no purpose. The 20th and final thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, negative emotions have no purpose. This belief stems from a desire to avoid discomfort, labeling emotions like anger, fear, or sadness as inherently bad. However, the Stoics understood that all emotions, even the difficult ones, serve a purpose and can be valuable teachers if we approach them with the right mindset. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment of them." Negative emotions often arise from our interpretations of events, and they can be opportunities for growth. For instance, anger can signal a boundary violation, prompting us to assert ourselves. Fear can help us prepare for potential dangers, and sadness can lead us to reflect on what truly matters. Wise individuals don't suppress or reject negative emotions. They seek to understand them. They ask themselves, what is this emotion trying to tell me? By reframing negative emotions as signals rather than obstacles, they turn discomfort into a catalyst for personal development. 21. Happiness comes from external success. The 21st thing that wise people don't say about their emotions is, happiness comes from external success. This belief ties emotional well-being to achievements, possessions, or recognition. While external success can bring fleeting satisfaction, it's a fragile foundation for lasting happiness. The Stoics taught that true contentment arises from within, rooted in virtue and alignment with one's principles, rather than external circumstances. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." External success is often beyond our control and subject to change. Careers fluctuate, possessions decay, and admiration fades. Building happiness on such impermanent foundations leads to insecurity and perpetual striving for more. Wise individuals recognize that genuine happiness is a byproduct of living a meaningful life, not the result of external achievements. They cultivate inner peace by focusing on their character, relationships, and contributions to the greater good. Gratitude plays a key role. By appreciating what they already have and finding joy in simple, everyday moments, they create an enduring sense of fulfillment. Instead of chasing external validation, they ask themselves, am I living according to my values? Am I contributing to something greater than myself? This inward focus allows them to experience happiness that is both resilient and independent of circumstances, a happiness that thrives even in adversity. Final reflection. Emotional control as a daily practice. The final key point in managing emotions, according to the Stoics, is that emotional control is not a one-time event, but a daily practice. The Stoics teach us that in order to develop wisdom and emotional resilience, we must consistently reflect on our reactions, thoughts, and feelings. Seneca made it clear, true freedom is the ability to rule oneself, not others. This self-mastery is essential for navigating the turbulent waters of human emotions. Every day, we have the opportunity to practice emotional control, examining our reactions with honesty, questioning our interpretations, and choosing responses with calmness and reason. Rather than trying to avoid emotions or letting them overwhelm us, we should train ourselves to respond with the same equanimity that an athlete trains their body to endure pain. This can be achieved through reflection, meditation, reading philosophical texts, and constant practice. The practice of premeditatio malorum. A particularly effective Stoic tool for managing emotions is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This practice involves imagining, in a reflective manner, the possible obstacles, challenges, and sufferings we might face, not as a way to anticipate suffering with anxiety, but as an exercise to prepare ourselves emotionally. As Seneca said, "There is no greater freedom than being liberated from the fear of adversity." By visualizing potential problems in advance, we can reduce the emotional impact of surprises and difficulties. It's not about living in fear of the future, but rather about mentally preparing ourselves to face it with calmness when it arrives. This exercise of anticipation helps put things into perspective and, at the same time, builds our resilience. By facing our worst expectations and handling them calmly, we develop mental strength, knowing that we can manage any emotion that arises. The importance of detachment and virtue. Another essential principle the Stoics teach is emotional detachment. It's not about not feeling, but rather not clinging to our emotions or allowing them to control our lives. As Marcus Aurelius put it, "What happens is what must happen. Learn to be indifferent to things you cannot control." This detachment is not insensitivity, but the ability to view emotions without completely identifying with them. Through detachment, we remain focused on what truly matters, our virtues and our ability to live according to reason. Emotional detachment allows us to maintain inner peace, regardless of external emotional turbulence. The Stoics invite us to be so committed to living a virtuous life that our emotions do not become the helm of our ship. Conclusion: emotions, wisdom, and self-control. In summary, the Stoics teach us that emotions are neither good nor bad in themselves. They are natural responses to our experiences, but how we choose to manage them defines our capacity for wisdom. Rather than seeing emotions as something that controls us, we should view them as an opportunity to practice self-control, reflection, and personal growth. Remember that the path to emotional serenity is not a destination, but a continuous practice. Through self-observation, moderation, and philosophical reflection, we can learn to manage our emotions in a way that helps us live a more virtuous life, not one that leads us to act impulsively. By adopting the Stoic mindset, we cultivate an inner calm that allows us to navigate emotions with balance and wisdom.